Good hello, welcome to Onion Skin. This is Toonz Premium, a different software than ones I've looked at before. This has a close relationship to OpenToonz, the free open source program that came out about, around April last year. So this program is much cheaper than many of its rivals. It clocks in at around $370 US, which might sound like a lot. However, comparing to some of its competitors, which can often clock in at a couple of $1,000 for a similar feature set, this is starting to look pretty tempting. And surprisingly, with its cheaper price tag comes a very large suite of features. It's very, very dense with them, in fact. Now, this is not a review, it's not a tutorial, this is simply what I've found so far to give you a bit of an overview of what this program could be capable of, but even more so, just a brief introduction as to its similarities and differences to what you may expect from a 2D animation software. Now, first of all, it is indeed a vector program. The controls for any given tool appear up along this top bar here. This must be the tool properties, very similar to Photoshop's layout. Now, with the paint bucket, I'm going to drop in a fill, as you would expect with anything other. However, this is the first big difference between this and other things that you may have seen before. Particularly, and that is, mysteriously enough, fills do not exist at all. This program exclusively works with strokes. What we see as a fill before us is in fact simply an illusion created by the completed stroke around it. If I grab this circle and move it around, you see the fill will always follow along with it. Likewise, if I move the eye around, the exterior of the fill will change as well. If this circle overlaps the outside, the fill will break around this edge. Likewise, if I were to move some of these vector points so that the circle becomes disconnected, the fill will also delete. There does seem to be a bit of memory existing within the shape, as once it becomes closed again, the fill will reassert itself. I think this will actually be quite a powerful way of working, because now you only need to think about one shape at a time. Consider the alternative where a fill is its own independent shape. Has that become a headache for you before? I know I've certainly had to work around that. I wonder how streamlined that workflow can become. Down here in the bottom left is the color palette panel. This runs on a tagged swatch system, meaning opening up any given swatch and changing its color will update it in real time. This is becoming a pretty standard feature now, and I for one am very happy this exists. Toonz Premium takes it one step further, however, with a ton of very fun built-in textures that will fill in normally for fills, but for a stroke or brush stroke, notice that it stretches, it curves, it shapes itself around what you're doing, creating all sorts of interesting results. Have a think about how useful it would be to be able to have a checkerboard texture like this that bends and curves with your stroke as you go. Moving deeper inside these set brushes, here are a bunch that are built as examples of how these strokes can be used. Pretty neat. Moving from color and drawings into time. How does the timeline work over here? Well, first of all, you may notice that this is an Xsheet panel, a much more traditional view from the classical form of animation, but also becoming standard in software now as well. Toonz Premium takes a little bit further in the traditional direction by not having a timeline at all. It has just the Xsheet, which I dare say, once you get used to it, is, I think, a good idea. It's a very streamlined way of thinking, and is quite easy to understand. Here at the bottom of the first drawing is a handle which can be pulled down, increasing the exposure of a drawing as far as you wish. Then drawing into a blank frame will insert a new drawing. Notice now that it's named number 2 after number 1. Blah, 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 blah. You may see that drawings are being inserted over in this panel over on the right. This is called the levels panel. It keeps drawings and frames separate from one another, in I think probably one of the most easy to understand ways that this sort of idea has been implemented. So let me run you through what that means. Over here we have a timeline with all the layers drawings in it with different amounts of exposures. Typically you probably have this at 2s, 3s or singles, and each one of the layers drawings is listed in order that they were made down here. Thinking of it as an inbuilt symbol might be a healthy way of thinking about it. If I click on any of these drawings, notice that the animation disk disappears. We are now outside of the camera view and inside of a drawing view, focusing exclusively on this one image. I imagine that once you have tons and tons of layers, by clicking on one of these, it erases everything else in the project, allowing you to focus on just this piece. Clicking back over on a frame again, you notice the animation wheel and the camera come back. We are back in the camera view once more. Going through frame by frame animation, of course, one of the handiest tools is the good old onion skin. On this timeline scrubber here, there's two little boxes on the top and the bottom. Stretching it out reveals the onion skin moving in either direction. Next to it, you can see faded boxes appear next to it. If I click on any of these, they become locked in. This is now leaving a permanent onion skin behind. Moving my timeline all the way down the bottom, these frames that I've selected remain visible no matter what. If you're focusing on your levels, the onion skin is visible here as well. So when working with drawing exposures and frames and all that, you often may want to do a motion tween. Computer generated movement. How do we create keyframes, move things around here? Inside the camera view panel down here is a little key. Well, guess what that does? Creates keyframes. Of course it creates keyframes. A little key has appeared in frame 1. If I go down here and put in another keyframe, a line has connected the two. This has indeed created a motion tween. Now we need to move the shape to a new position so a tween can be done. How is it done? Now this white arrow here is used for selecting vector artwork for manipulation. It's not used for animation. The tool directly above it with all of these little bits sticking out like a spaceship. This is a free transform tool designed for animation, motion tween, free transform purposes. The three sticks coming out are the three different types of, transforming: rotation, scale, shear, and just kind of clicking anywhere around and about will do position. Now scrubbing up through here, oh look at that, it's moving. And because the drawings are kept separate within the levels panel to the timeline, it means drawings can be swapped out mid-tween. Finally, I want to show you something quite interesting, which this program tackles quite differently. On the tools panel over here, there's this black arrow. Opening it up brings up all these other tools and controls, most of which are vector manipulation stuff. So within my levels, on panel 2 and panel 7 is the same drawing. Direct copy and paste, right? I'm going to grab some of these tools, muck around with them. They do all sorts of different things, whether it be this magnet here, which pushes things around in weird ways. I'm sure once you get used to it, you could get quite fine-tuned control here. But for now, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like this iron sort of smooths things out when you rub on it. Okay, yeah, all right, fair enough. Bicycle pump, which sort of things all around and about. And of course, good old vertice selectors, where bits can be selected and deleted and smoothed out that way. It doesn't matter. Anyway, okay, basically now that's all messed up and gross. Original one, still as it was, okay? In fact, I'm shifting this eye all the way up just because why not? Now, if I select between these two panels like that, you see this bar down the right that has appeared with a little square pointing down to a circle. This is, of course, a shape tween, a morph. If you press on it, you're given an in-between dialog box with different easing options. Ease in and out, why not? In between, bang! Look at what's appeared. An automorph, a shape tween, which is perfect. It's working seamlessly. Have you used any other vector program ever? You know how bad it can be to try and do any kind of shape tweening? It's almost an idea that you just shouldn't worry about because 95% of the time it'll just break and die. Look how perfect this is. I mean, it's a gross drawing, but nothing's breaking, nothing's moving in the wrong position. It knows exactly what needs to go where. What I think causes this to happen, and of course this is just a theory, is the program might remember the order that things are drawn in. So if I were to create the face pointing in two different directions and draw every stroke in the exact same order, now, of course, the mouth is being a little bit silly, but it remembered that the mouth is the mouth. So I'm sure that there's a way to sort of coax the program into behaving a little bit more, but that is an incredibly complicated morph, and it just knew it. I think this will be a big thing to dive into. So that's most of what I've found so far with Toonz Premium. To give you a bit of a preview on things we might start to tackle in the future, and just the amount of features that exist in this program in general, is look at this, a 3D view. That's a thing as well as, look at that, a complete node editor with its own independent effects panel. Look at all these effects. Lots of folders full of different blurs and gradients and crazy stuff going on. So this program is incredibly deep, which is quite good considering its price. Now consider its relationship to OpenToonz, however. Many of the same features still exist in the free open source version of the program. In fact, some say that there are even more features in the free open source version of the program. However, being an open source program, it is quite unstable. In fact, the Mac version is completely unusable, which is why I haven't been able to do any more videos for it, which is a real shame. Fortunately though, there's this one, where it's got proper staff support and is completely stable. I've not had any sort of crashing issues at all. It feels tight, it feels professional, I'm liking it a lot so far. So yes, this has been Toonz Premium. You probably haven't even heard of it before. There's a link to their storefront in the description if you wanted to give it a look. They of course have a free trial as well, as most programs do. So it's always good to try it for yourself. There's a lot of programs out there on the market now, so see what's right for you. Everyone's tastes and everyone's needs are different. But this does seem to be a nice Swiss Army knife program that does a lot of stuff for those on a budget. I'm still very new to it. I have a lot of research to go. I haven't made an animation from start to finish. I haven't done any extensive drawing besides silly scribbles like that. So I'm yet to say just how nice it feels for drawing good art. We shall discover that soon, but I'm looking forward to it. Keep an eye out for future Creative Journal videos where I just practice my own stuff. They're going to be one of the best places to see me practicing with these programs on the fly and seeing what we can learn, really. Thank you for coming by and sitting through my blabbering. Have some fun, and I'll see you in the next one.